everybody is expendable for the good of film.
Everybody.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to 31 Days of Horror. I am Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. We have got a slasher today from 2009. A little late in the slasher game, but they were still making them. They're still making them. And this is The Hills Run Red. This is directed by Dave Parker, and it's cool. The only thing that I wish is that it had a little bit more slashing in it, especially when you get a pretty nasty looking killer like that. Or I should say a pretty badass looking killer like that. But this film was still cool. It had a lot of good going for it, especially if you are a film buff. It doesn't satire it, but it plays around with like the passion of filmmaking and stuff like that. Basically, you've got this legend director named Wilson Wyler Concannon, and in the world that the film plays out. Basically, in 1982, he made this film that was completely lost, and it's basically an urban legend. Like, the guy disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to any of the prints. They're all lost. All there's left is like a trailer. And then you got this guy named Tyler who's obsessed with films, very much obsessed with films, and he wants to hunt this film down. So he's obsessed with it. He does all the research. Eventually, he meets this woman that was in the film when she was a little girl, who's now grown up, working at a strip club, and he tracks her down because he wants to interview her. And basically, he wants to make a documentary on this film. He wants to shoot on all the locations that the film was filmed at, and he wants to document anybody that knows about the film. His best friend, I would say, Lalo. I think it's pronounced Lalo in the film, Lalo. I read it as Lalo, but they pronounce it Lalo. He's basically convincing his best friend Lalo and Tyler's girlfriend to help him along with this film, but they really don't want to, and he's so obsessed with this documentary, and he's so obsessed with this lost film that he literally doesn't give a shit about anything else, not his relationship. He could care less if Serena, his girlfriend, is sleeping with Lalo, which she does, and he doesn't care. And she's just like, see, the characters in this film, they're all pretty shitty. Like, there's no good character in this film. They're all pretty shitty. He goes off to find Alexa. His girlfriend obviously gets jealous. Obviously, there's something that happens with Alexa. And then there's a scene right at the beginning of the film where Lalo and Serena sleep together. And it's like, okay, even if Tyler's a douche, like, do you sleep with your best friend's girl? Come on. Even if he doesn't give a shit. I don't know. It's nobody has any morals in this film. Let's just put it that way. I'll leave it at that. But in discovering this film, basically Tyler realizes that he dove into the wrong passion, and shit starts to go down. And even 20 years later, they say it's 20 years later, which is weird because they said this film was released in 1982. This film was made in 2009, so 20 years later would be 2002. So maybe the film takes place in 2002. They don't really mention it. It doesn't matter, but they keep mentioning that it's 20 years after this film disappeared. So basically, Alexa ends up not being who she seems, and closer to the end of the film, obviously the director Wilson Wyler Concannon shows up again from the dead, and he's basically been making this film with his daughter the whole time. There are scenes where there's like rivers of blood. Like it looks like a river running through and it's completely red. I like that. I thought that gave like a big aesthetic to the film. Like I said, the only thing that I would not complain about, I'm not going to say complain about, but the only thing that I would add to this film is just more slasher kills, because the ones that we get are great. They're just way too far and in between, in my opinion. I think this would make one like a classic slasher film if there was just more of it. This film is also soaked in the 2000s. It's got 2000 tropes left, right, and center. Looks great. I found it funny too. I noticed that Lalo was trying so hard to do an American accent. And I noticed it right away. I'm like, this guy's definitely not American. So I looked him up. Yep, definitely English. He's good, but you can definitely tell he slips sometimes. So you get these urban legends about the killer too. There's one going around that his mother was raped by some feral hillbilly, forest guy kind of thing, and then that the kid came out looking like all weird, so he stitched this baby face to his face and like sewed it up and stuff like that. You get later on more of an incestual thing that's revealed involving Alexa, which is pretty disgusting. I'll just leave it at that, because it's there's a couple twists that happen that reveals a lot. But basically, in a nutshell, these crazy people are obsessed with film, and they kept this film going in production for 20 years, and basically it's a snuff film. That's what they do. They're actually they're so psychotic and they're so obsessed with film that they're basically making a snuff film. And basically Tyler's character jumps into this scenario that he really shouldn't. The girl who plays Serena is a very, very great actress, especially when she's like acting panicked and scared for her life. She's very, very good. She's very convincing. I think she's probably the best actress in this film, hands down. Alexa is very good too. She's very hot. She's your typical hot blonde, and she's very psychotic. And she does a good job with her character as well. And then you've got William Sadler, who the name sounded familiar. I had to look him up because I definitely have seen him or heard that name before. And yeah, he was in a ton of stuff. He's been in Ant-Man. He's been in Iron Man 3. He's been in Die Hard 2. So he definitely has a big, big film track record. So he did really good too. And he's the main... the director of The Hills Run Red, basically. The Hills Run Red in The Hills Run Red. You know what I mean. And yeah, I like the ending scene too, where Alexa, all psychotic, basically ties Tyler up and puts him in a movie theater, and this movie theater actually is filled with dead bodies that her and her dad, who I'm guessing made a baby with her, which is so fucked up. But yeah, there's this theater with all these bodies. Some of them are already skeletons. Some of them like don't even have heads on them, and they're just sitting in the movie theater seats with Tyler like in the front. And she makes them watch this film that she and her dad recorded like the whole time. Like even in the strip club, like there was cameras shooting, and basically they're just crazy people making this crazy snuff film. It's a cool concept. It's a very, very cool concept. And it delivers a lot of greatness. I just wanted more. I just there's actually a part too, which is funny. There's a part where Lalo is tied to a chair and he has a gag in his mouth, and the director Wilson Wyler Concannon comes up and he says, "What the hell's going on? What is this whip gag ball shit? Like, what's going on? This is," what does he say? "This is a torture show. Where's the emotion?" And that actually reminded me of the era where like the Saws and the Hostels were coming out, and everybody's complaining about them being torture porn, and that whole definition, torture porn, started to, people started to use it left, right, and center. And I think they did that on purpose. I think they used that line like, "What is this, a torture show?" to kind of not jab but satire that era, because that's when it was 2009. So Hostel was like 2005, I think, and Saw was 2004. So the whole 2000s had that whole, you know, films of people torturing other people, and that kind of like replaced the classic slasher horror kind of thing. So I definitely caught that. I'm like, I think that was a satire moment for the time kind of thing for horror movies. But basically, my point is that I think this film would do better because there's a lot of scenes like that. It's more torture than slasher. I think this film would be. It would have that next level up if it had more like slasherness to it, I think. But that's not saying that the film was bad or I didn't like it or I'm asking for anything else. Just a little more of what it had to offer, pretty much. That's all. I give it. What do I give it? It's like it's middle ground, so I'm like between 45 and 55. I'd probably go with like 49 out of 100. Why out of 100? Because I hate decimals. And it was very, very delivering in what it had, and I appreciate the film very, very much. But can't a guy ask for more? Hey, maybe I'm just being selfish. Maybe I'm just being greedy, who knows? That's The Hills Run Red. I don't want to say The Hills Have Eyes, because it's not The Hills Have Eyes, it's The Hills Run Red. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like my film reviews, or if you like to listen to my voice. And there's lots of reviews on the channel. There's plenty more to come. And stay tuned for more. So subscribe. Take care. Till next time. Cheers, guys.